I'm Marcus Jacobi. I work for Hen. You introduced me nicely. Thank you so much. So we do this project. It's actually a long way how we got to this project. Saqib worked for Hen many years ago. It's not that many, like five years ago. And in a different context, we started that research project together. At this time, it's not about materials. It's about communication and visualizing communication patterns in workplace environments. That has been within our office already for many years, some kind of topic we focus our research on. Saqib and Giovanni Betti, many of you might know him as well. He's here at UDK as well. Did some research prior to what we started, I think 2 years ago. And I, would like to give you a short overview of where we stand. It's a project in progress. Yeah, you see the people who have been involved in it. Some people, some of you might know them: Felix Deiters, Giovanni, someone, Iris from our office, and me. As I said, it's about communication. Companies are communication systems. In that way, they're pretty similar to, your circle of friends and your family. And you can imagine what happens if you all of a sudden stop talking to each other, right? It's probably not a good sign, not in a marriage, not in a circle of friends, and also not within companies. So the whole project is about understanding mostly informal communication patterns within companies, which is a field that there has been research previously, but it's not something architects normally look at from a scientific point of view. We talk about it, we assume things while we're designing it, and we say, this atrium and people gonna meet and do this and do that, but kind of closing the data loop and kind of figuring out if that is actually the communication behavior that ultimately happens within the buildings, and kind of get empiric data, visualizing, analyzing it. That hasn't really happened yet. And that's what we're trying to start doing here. So we look at two communication elements. One is the relations between people who talk with each other. So am I from team A, and the person I'm talking to is from the same team or from a different team? And then obviously where the teams are located within the building. So if someone traveled far to get to that point, where you're communicating. And the second part is obviously the communication in space. So where does the communication happen? So those are the two elements we started looking at. And by overlaying it, we hope that at some point we can, answer questions like this: where and how does informal communication take place within a building? Can we plan for unplanned communication? So this is a big element of it, and a paradox as well, because unplanned is unplanned, and architects need to kind of foster an environment and a design that increases the chances of unplanned communication, in a way planning it, right? And then how can space effectively increase such social communication behavior or patterns? Those are kind of the underlying questions. I jump over previous research. There has been, as I mentioned, Alex Pentland at MIT. There's a lot of stuff going on, and Saqib and Giovanni did work within our office prior to that research project already, but in the shortage of time, I'm going to go over it. So the entire topic has kind of an increased importance right now after Corona, because a lot of offices are empty now, right? And there's a huge challenge to get people back to the office. And we believe that also a study like that or knowledge like that will allow us to create better arguments for companies to change offices so people would like to come back more, and have offices that perform better in a variety of different aspects. So we did a case study within our office in Berlin at Alexanderplatz. The hypothesis is basically that it's based on distance between people. So there are different radii of distance, intimate spaces, personal spaces, social spaces. And the assumption is that if people, two circles of personal spaces overlap for a time, let's say longer than 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds, it's most likely that those people have an interaction with, unless they stand in front of the elevator or in front of a coffee machine, where they wait in line. But if you stand like, 80 centimeters or a meter away from the person for a minute or two, it would be a weird social situation if you wouldn't talk to each other, for example, unless it's a setup where you just wait around or you watch a show or something, of course. We use this little tags, angle of arrival, Bluetooth technology. People in our office over a period of several months here and there were wearing those tags. We gathered the data. This is a little bit how the logic would work in theory. It didn't work entirely like that. So you define a certain radius that defines that kind of communication space around a person. And if they overlap, then you look at other parameters and see if this might qualify as a communication event. And that's how you analyze the data we gathered in order to figure out a way how to, as precise as possible, identify those communication events within data points, just like blue dots on a map. A lot of people, everyone leaves a dot on a map or a path, and you need to basically figure out the algorithm that identifies those moments. I'm going to go over a few things. This was the setup. We had the entire office equipped with anchors that would record the movements of those tags we were carrying. And then the idea was theoretically that we would get these communication events, by how many people would communicate at a point. Are they from different teams or are they the same team? Then we can basically link that to spatial qualities of the space. So you say, oh, this is where a coffee machine is standing, or this is where the evening sun is coming in, and then you can overlay the timeline. And you say, of course, because the coffee machine is there, there's more informal communication happening, or because it's really nice in the evenings with the sunset, so you have certain times where people might gather there, etc. So this is the hypothesis or the working thesis. We started doing experiments, literally the same process of 3 people over 2 minutes doing the same movements with those tags over and over and over again, because it wasn't that easy to calibrate those or to get the right data to then analyze communication events, because it makes a difference if the tags report a distance of 80 centimeters between 2 people or 1.60 meters. And we used with this submeter, we were aiming for sub-meter accuracy for those angle of arrival tags. Which we got some results. It wasn't good enough, or it was good enough for first test, but for a larger scale application, it's not precise enough yet. That has to do with the density of the anchors on the ceiling. It has to do with the material. So those are all elements we are, or roadblocks or challenges we are facing while doing that. But you see here that we, always did the same kind of loops, and you see the little dots here. No, not here. Here, is the plan where we are, and we compared if the dots are actually matching the real location on the video in order to gauge if the accuracy of the technology is precise enough to base an algorithm on that identifies communication events. But ultimately, we got results, and we use different algorithms to then analyze and identify them. Those are different algorithm types. I can't really talk to that much. If you're more interested, ask Sakib and Iris in our office, or me, and I get you the answers. We started building a dashboard with the parameters that we are interested in. So, which teams, number of participants, and duration of conversation. And that's the 3 different parameters we would like in a first test be able to analyze those communication events. So you can say, hey, I'm interested in figuring out why the planning team is not talking to the design systems team, or are they, and where, and maybe they're sitting too far away from each other. Maybe they don't like each other. Then you can obviously dive in and figure out why things the way they are. There are different reporting elements. This is still a mock-up. We have a small working prototype that doesn't look as nice, so I'm using the mock-up. those are singular communication events on the left side, where you can actually see the size of the circle is the duration of the event, and the segmentation is the different people. The colors are different teams, so you can basically start analyzing, but obviously it really starts to make sense if you overlay thousands and thousands of communications over a longer period of time, let's say a month or a year, and then you start seeing more peat-based maps that obviously don't have the richness or the dimension of information like the left one, but it gives you an understanding of which space kind of fosters informal communication over a longer period of time. So this is the direction we are going. There's a second component to it, which is the social impact of being tracked or being observed, if you want. There are a lot of data privacy elements to it, obviously, which I'm not going too much into it, but we did a survey and did interviews with people within our office if wearing the tags and knowing about that research project, if it identifies or if it changed your behavior or you think it changed your behavior. And that was really interesting that, there are many reasons of it. I think within our office, everyone or most people were saying, no, they don't believe it changed their social behavior or communication behavior, but obviously we also prepared them pretty well within the office for that test. We had a lot of talks, so people knew exactly what it is about. This is another field where we would like to go deeper into in the next step. We are in the process of getting a SIM-Antrag. We need more money to actually get that off the road. We need developers and need to build the algorithm and dashboard, etc. So there are a couple of different project components. So establishing plausible definitions of communication events. So those are the work blocks that need to happen in the next year of that project. Definition of communication events needs to be much more thorough and scientific. Developing a robust algorithm to reliably identify those events. That's the second one. Then conduct ongoing testing. So how you get the blue dot on a map is challenging. The fourth one is cloud-based dashboard, and the fifth one, the social impact on users. So let's hope we get the SIM-Antrag genehmigt, approved, and we can continue with that project and tackle those issues. Thank you so much.